Come on. All right, welcome into the Daily Wolves podcast. I'm your host, Evan, and I'm here to talk Timberwolves basketball with Maddy. Maddy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad having you on. Obviously, people heard you the last time you joined in with us, but it's good to put that face on video. We're here today, and Matt's not here, but that's okay. We're holding the fort down for him. Um, there's a bunch of things that have been happening in the last week since the NBA draft, and one of them, different free agents signing. Obviously, seeing players get introduced at a press conference, but we'll get into that in a second. I kind of want to start off with rewinding back to the NBA draft and go through that. Obviously, Minnesota had the first round pick, but it was a late first, and then we had a second round pick at pick 37. We ended up trading around in the draft, which I didn't really expect. What did you think of draft night, and also what was your reaction, like live reaction of Minnesota trading up into the 8th pick?
Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't able to watch the draft. I was at work, but
Yeah,
I was getting updates from my brother. And I certainly was not expecting us to get somebody like Rob. I don't know, I wasn't expecting us to trade up that high at all,
yeah,
I guess. I think Tim just really cooked with that one. I think like getting a top 10, a lottery pick as a
yeah.
team that made the Western Conference Finals is crazy. I
That's
feel like that
facts.
probably doesn't happen often at all. And that was like, we couldn't have asked for something better than to get a lottery pick, honestly. And I'm not a huge college basketball person either, but like before the draft, I heard so much about Rob specifically. And so I'm very excited to have him on our team.
It's crazy to think the last guard that was taken in the top 10 from Kentucky was Jamal Murray. And then we all see how like he turned out, right? And just all the players that get taken out of Kentucky are such good players, and they turn out to be NBA players. And what I mean by that is they don't bust. A lot of players, they can bust, but at least at worst, it looks like they become, a viable option for a long time in the NBA. And so the track record's really there. I think obviously, like you said, Tim absolutely cooked in the draft. Trading up into the 8th pick, I was watching it live. I wasn't even on, like, I feel like usually I'm on, like, following really closely with, like, Woj and Shams and just seeing, like, when it's getting near our pick, kind of like if we're going to do anything or if you're hearing any news when it's coming up into that, like, you know, within 5 pick range. And I wasn't even on anything. So when it happened on TV, I was just like watching with my roommate, just shocked that we actually traded up. Like you said, a good team too. It doesn't happen often where you're going to be able to get a top 10 talent and you're going to fill a need, which is a bucket getter, a thing that they struggled with in the playoffs. We saw it in the Dallas Mavericks series, someone that can take the pressure off Anthony Edwards. And then on top of that, just a kid that really looks like he's hungry to prove, everybody wrong. I think the kid, a lot of stuff in the interviews, he's really, you can tell he's just a good kid at the end of the day. And then getting to learn under a guy like Mike Conley, that's going to be incredible for him coming in, picking his brain, getting to learn under Anthony Edwards. I think it's going to be just a perfect fit for Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking to my mom and brother, and they were like, I don't know if there's any person in the league that would be better than Mike to train in a guy like Rob. Like, he's the perfect fit to have. He's just gonna do so much for Rob, and he's the type of guy who wouldn't care if Rob took his spot. Like he just wants to be a team player, and he's gonna help, I think, make a huge difference in the development of Rob, which is huge.
The first like we saw during the press conference, the first person that reached out to Rob after that was Mike Conley. Some of the other players had reached out to him as well. But just the fact that that veteran point guard is making him feel comfortable, someone that he probably looked up to, obviously someone who's been in the league for 17 years, that's super special. Mike's obviously one of those guys who's changed the whole culture for the Timberwolves. So I can't wait for him to really learn under him. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why Anthony Edwards became Anthony Edwards is because of Mike Conley being a mentor, because of Ricky Rubio in his rookie season, because of Patrick Beverly the other season. So he's really had those guys to help him. And now I feel like Rob can kind of come in, ease it a little bit, be able to get that dad mentorship from Mike Conley, but then also have Ant tell him, somebody who like Ant, who's kind of around his age, would say like, this is how I was when I came in. This is how we were when we came in. Having guys like Nas and Jaden there too that can guide him, say, This is how we came up. This is what helped us. I think you're getting the perfect balance of that older, vet with the
Mhm.
younger vet in a way. And I think
Yeah,
that's going to be really special for him. Along with him not being the best defender coming out of the draft, I think coming
yeah,
onto the number one defense is going to be huge for him and the Minnesota Timberwolves because he can hopefully develop to be just an average defender. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite defender just due to
yeah,
his size, but I think you're putting him around the right guys who can cover up his defense. And then on top of that, all you need him to do is just go get buckets in those clutch moments and take that pressure off Anthony Edwards.
yeah. I think he's gonna be a lot like Ant. He
Yeah.
just he gives off the same kind of vibes as Ant, and his personality too. Like he seems like he's just gonna be a really fun guy to be around, and he's gonna fit right in with the team. And I think he'll learn a lot from Ant because, like you were saying, Ant just became kind of the leader that he is just in the
Hmm.
past like year. So now
Yeah.
he's in the same place as Mike, to obviously with much less experience, but he's got that leadership value that I think can really impact Rob. And he's clearly just like so open to coming here and so open to learning and growing, and that's the kind of vibe we need on the team.
Yeah, 100%. And then, you also have the other draft pick who came in later in the first round, a guy who a lot of people didn't think was going to be on there around that time. And they had a couple different avenues they could go at that moment. You'd heard guys like Isaiah coming in that they were interested in him. Tyler Kolek was still on the
Yeah,
board. Some shooters like Johnny Murphy were still on the board. And they end up going with Terrence Shannon Jr., a guy who, you know, arguably one of the best players in college basketball last year. Probably could have won National Player of the Year despite a few things. Obviously, was battling some legal issues. A guy who's already NBA ready. He's already 23 years old. He's older than Anthony Edwards, which is
yeah,
actually crazy. But he already has that grown man body. He doesn't have to grow into it. He's a guy that can slot in right away, and he's one of the leaders in driving to the hoop last year in college basketball and went to the free throw line nearly 9 times a game. I mean, this guy is absolutely incredible. He's aggressive. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's not scared of contact. And I think that's something Minnesota definitely needs. And he has the potential. He shows it there to be a two-way star. He came
hmm
out and said that he wants to be a two-way star and that he believes Anthony Edwards is a two-way star and wants to learn from him. So what better way to put him around guys like Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, all those players to help mentor him, really take his game to the next level, and hopefully maybe he can be a big part of our team later in the year.
yeah. I think he has potential to make a big impact. Even just like coming off the bench
Mm-hmm.
and like Nas and starting to make a big impact. He also seems like Rob, just really happy to be here
Yeah.
and really open to learning. And I think everything that he went through helped him build a lot of character and like grow in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And probably made him better ready for the NBA. And I thought it was cute in the press conference that he said Ant was one of the best two-way players in the league and that he wants to play like him. So it's kind of crazy that Ant is like still so young, but these guys are looking up to him as one of their favorite players. And I think that makes a big difference. I know I was talking with my brother like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, people were like mad if they got drafted to the Wolves, and now
Yeah,
they're
of
like,
course.
and now people are like, oh my God, I'm on a contender team, and they're like saying we're one of the best teams in the NBA. It's like crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, I agree with you. I feel like before this is what I can bring to this team to change it around or change the culture or give them winning basketball. Like you said, now they're coming in. The players, the way that they talk about our organization, it's that we're already a winning organization. We
Mhm.
already know what we're doing. We already have a good coach. We already have good players. We already have one of the best stars, period in the NBA. It doesn't matter if he's young or old. Anthony Edwards is that guy, and everybody knows it. Then you have guys like Rudy Gobert, who they know won Defensive Player of the Year. They already know our team was the number one defense and what it's going to be, what's expected of them from day one. That
Mhm.
if you really want to play for Chris Finch, you're going to have to play defense. You're going to have to put effort in that side. And sometimes players go into, places where they're not expected to do that. They just go out there, shoot the ball a bunch, put up
Mhm.
potentially empty stats and do what you got to do. No, on this team, you got to earn your spot. And if you don't, there's a ton of other guys and they'll put a different guy in over you. So I think that's just like it builds that hunger, and then when
Yeah.
we start training camp, it'll also build for the rookies learning and developing those habits like early to be, potentially two-way players.
Yeah, I agree. I also like how both of them kind of said
Yeah,
like they're not coming in to like take over and do everything. They're coming in to just do what the coach asks of them and
exactly.
to contribute to like what we already have going. They're not like they're not expecting to come make a huge difference, although they
Yeah.
probably will, but they just have the right mindset of like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do what coach wants me to do, and I'm going to like contribute to this team that already is at a championship level, which is a really like, it's a good mindset to have. And it's not easy to have that mindset at that age.
It's definitely not. Having guys who already accept that they're going to do whatever they need to do, and that's what their role is. It's not a defined role. It's just whatever they need me to do, and accepting that, hey, you know what? I need to earn my spot. I think that's really cool. And at the end of the day, we all saw it last year with this team, how close they were together, that chemistry on and off the floor. And if you can bring that and build that with these young guys, I mean, the sky's really the limit. Let's kind of go into the summer league, because that's kind of the next step that they're going to. That's literally happening next weekend. It's kind of crazy that it's almost here already. And you're going to get to see tons of different players. I'm sure people watching this right now are so excited to watch Rob Dillingham play, our new draft pick, Terrence Shannon Jr. But there's other guys that I'm sure people in here are excited to watch, like Jalen Clark get an opportunity, right? Guy who was Defensive Player of the Year while he was in college. Didn't play last year due to injuries, being out. He had a pretty serious injury. Let's not forget that. Kind of came back at the end of the year and developed stuff, but he was just practicing, doing, contact work, but nothing. He didn't play for the G League team for us. But now he's going to get a shot in the summer league to show what he can do. There's some room for a potential, filler at the end of the bench. So Jalen Clark, obviously Josh Minot, you're going to have Leonard Miller out there. Daishan Nix, who's our, that's like our, I guess the cheerleader, the guy who got the guy who got the pointing stuff for our bench. He's there too in summer league. So a ton of different players. I think they're going to have one of the most exciting teams in summer league, and they're all long, they're all athletic. They can all run the floor. I think it's going to be a fun team.
Yeah. I'm new to watching NBA in general.
Yeah.
This was only my second year. So I don't know much about summer league at all. Like I really don't know much about it, but my brother was saying that he thinks the Wolves can win it all. I didn't know there was even like a winner. But I'm excited to watch. I hope I can catch some of the games, because like I do think we have like a really good team. I mean, with Rob playing and then getting to see, like you said, guys like Jalen Clark and Leonard Miller, I think it could be really exciting. I'm excited to see how Jalen Clark pans out. Like we just don't know. There's a lot of unknown with him, just because we didn't get to see anything from him. And he's been out for so long, but it seems like he's been working hard and like was working hard during his recovery. So I'm hoping that he does well. I think Leonard Miller will do well, and I'm excited to see him. I'm a big Leonard fan. And I'm really hoping Daishan does well too, because I would like to keep him around on the team, if nothing but for like the impact he makes on the energy and the bench.
I think I'm not sure he will still be around. I just think it's too competitive right now. And after they brought in some players, I just don't see any way, just because they have those young guys for the future. But hopefully he plays well and he gets an opportunity with a different team, or he sticks around, but he plays for the G League team or something like that. Jalen Clark was drafted to be kind of a Marcus Smart type of player. That's what you're like ideal. What you want him to become is you want him to become what Marcus Smart was for Boston. Become a perimeter defender, be absolutely elite. He was one of the best perimeter defenders in college basketball. Can really do it all on that side of the ball. Not really a big scorer at all, so I wouldn't expect that to come in. But maybe he shocks us. If he does that, he's gonna be in the lineup, guaranteed off the bench, because defense will earn you a spot. But he's kind of drafted to be a 3-and-D kind of player. We'll see if he can hit the threes consistently. And then obviously Josh and obviously Josh has been with us for a few years now. But seeing his development, last year he looked like he wasn't completely ready to enter into the NBA lineup, and I saw it last year in summer league. So I'm hoping he takes a step, shows he can actually hit the three ball consistently. And then obviously Leonard Miller, a guy who last year I was completely shocked upon. I thought he looked close to becoming into the NBA last year. Obviously losing a guy like Kyle Anderson now, there is room for somebody who is that size for Josh, or like Leonard Miller, or obviously a guy like PJ Dozier, who we'll talk about in a second, kind of to come in and take those minutes, because you're going to need a long, lengthy guy who can defend, who can shoot the three ball, who can score. And it's going to be fun to see. I can't wait to see Rob Dillingham play as well with these guys. I feel like that team is going to run the floor. They're going to be explosive. And I want to truly see if Rob Dillingham can live up to being a microwave scorer when we get to Super League.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the chemistry they have together too, because it's just like they all seem like they have similar kind of personalities and good vibes and super young. So I think it'll be fun to watch them during Summer League.
No, it's gonna be so fun. I'm excited. I'll be out there covering it. So anyone who's watching, we're gonna be giving you content from NBA Summer League Live. We're gonna be doing some video for you guys. We're gonna be doing podcasts. Hopefully, we'll get pictures, tons of different things out there, and kind of give you guys that up close coverage of NBA Summer League. I'll try to put out links if there's links available to tweet out or put out for you guys to watch the Summer League live. They have their first game on Friday, I believe, around 4 p.m. Central Time. But yeah, on top of that, there's a couple moves that we've made since the season's ended now, and one of them we were just talking about a second ago, and that's Kyle Anderson leaving the team. He's moved on to the Golden State Warriors. We've also lost Monte Morris, another guy. He went to the Phoenix Suns. So we lost a ball handler and a backup point guard. But, Tim Conley is Tim Conley, and there's always something that he's doing. I feel like that guy's always up to something. And even though you lose Kyle Anderson, who's going to be a big loss on the defensive end, he did struggle a lot offensively for us last year. But, Kyle was great for us. I can only, say thank you to him because 2 years ago, he really brought a lot to our team. He had one of his best years in his NBA career with us 2 years ago. And then obviously ever since that eye injury that year, he kind of went downhill. But Kyle Anderson was definitely a fun watch. And then Monte Morris, we didn't get to see too much of him, but he was coming back from an injury last year. But it does suck to lose a ball handler. But when you draft a guy like Rob Dillingham, which they did not expect to get a guy like him, they just didn't think they were going to get up into the top 10. When that obviously presented itself, you make that deal and you go up and you get that guy. Monte Morris wasn't going to be sticking around. He knew that he wasn't going to get playing time. He knew that eventually Rob's going to get the reins, and that's who they wanted. So I understand why he moved on. Kyle, we just couldn't afford simply. There's nothing wrong with going and getting that money that he deserves to get paid. So now you're bringing in a guy who's a shooter who has familiar ties with Rudy Gobert, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Mike Conley, who they all played with each other in the Utah Jazz days, and that is Joe Ingles coming out. He played for the Magic last year, but he's a 41% career three-point shooter. My guy looks like I put that out yesterday. My guy looks like just your average dad out there who's just balling at the YMCA when you pull up. But Joe Ingles, what do you think of that signing?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he's like old and white is just makes him seem like he's not going to fit in with our team at all. But I've heard that he has a really great personality and that he's like a funny guy. And as long as his personality is good, then like everything else will come. Because I know like the chemistry on our team is such a huge thing, and having good chemistry and good vibes between all the players has made such an impact on our performance on the court.
Yeah.
And like 41% shooting from the three is also like a crazy stat. So that in itself is like, we'll take that. He's not going to like play a ton, I don't suspect, but I think like when we need him, I think he'll show up.
He's also a playmaker, which is something that's super underrated in his career, and he's really developed that in his younger days. So having him, I think that's what's going to surprise Timberwolves fans more than his three-point shooting is his ability to have chemistry with these other guys and play make. He can operate in the pick and roll actually with Rudy Gobert really well. If you go back to Utah clips, he was good with that. Obviously familiar with Mike Conley, all these guys. And we see how different it is when you bring players who are familiar with Rudy Gobert's game, how much of a difference that truly makes. Like you look at what D'Angelo Russell did with him, and then how different it was when Mike Conley came in. Rudy seems like a guy who obviously you need to know how to play with him, where he likes the ball, the chemistry fit, and then if you empower Gobert and you make him feel good, you can see him really take that leap. I think that's what you saw with Mike, gives him that confidence, and he's kind of one of those players that he kind of needs that. And Ingles and him and all those guys just being the way they were, they had the number one team in the NBA actually that year with the Jazz. They were good for a reason. And so just seeing him come in and being able to do that, another guy who's a veteran who can, in late game situations, you could potentially play him at the end of the game, and you can count on him by not making a rookie mistake. That's big too. And then obviously coaching these young guys that are coming in like Terrence Shannon Jr., whether it's Leonard Miller on our bench, Josh, you name it, he can also help do that, kind of give him the ins and outs. He's not a good defender, I'll say that, Maddie. That's the one thing everyone watching, I don't want that expectation to be up there. Joe isn't going to come in and basically not play a lick of defense. But he's an old player. But man, it's gonna be fun to watch him. And then there's also a guy they signed named PJ Dozier who played with the Denver Nuggets back in the day. So Tim drafted PJ. He's familiar with his game. He played overseas last year. You might remember his name because he played with Minnesota a couple years ago for a little bit in the Iowa League or in our summer league team. But PJ Dozier, another guy who's a lengthy player, who if he doesn't get hurt in his early part of his career, he had potential to be like a big rotation type of player. I think it's worth taking a risk on a guy like him when you have need at the end of the bench, and you never really know. So you'll get to see some run at him too.
Yeah, I personally hadn't heard of him, but like at this point, I trust everything that Tim is doing.
Yeah.
And especially because he knows him from when he was at the Nuggets, I think like he knows what he's doing. And I think, I don't know, maybe he'll surprise us.
Yeah, man, the sky's really the limit. And like you said, you have to trust Tim. Anything Tim's done, you can't doubt because a lot of the stuff's worked out, whether it's the Gobert trade, the Mike Conley trade, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Kyle Anderson, bring him in. And no matter what people want to say about Kyle Anderson, bring him in was one of the best free agent signings Minnesota's had in our team history at the time. There's just so many moves that I feel like he's made that pan out, and you just have to trust him as one of the best GMs in the league right now. Also, I guess if we're going into kind of wrapping up here, what's one, I'll throw it in there, what's one iconic moment from last year out of anything? It could be the playoffs, regular season, off the floor, on the floor. What's an iconic moment, Maddie, for you from last season? Something that you'll always remember forever.
My favorite is the pointing celebration that Dacian started, which happened in November, I guess. So like really early on in the season. But I'm a big off the court person and like sentimental person. And for some reason, that's just like, that's the thing that draws me in from this season. I think it's amazing. And like the way that everybody's fully committed to it during every game, I just love it. I think it's a good team thing. And I also think it's kind of cool that like Dacian, who doesn't like play and like people don't even know him if they're not a Timberwolves fan, like he's the one who started it all. So like if nothing else, he left that lasting impact on the team.
That's a fact. I think the pointing thing is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life in any sport. It's so fun to see the guys have fun with that, the young guys, and even when they're not playing in the game, it feels like they're always part of the game, and it felt like everyone was truly part of the team. I feel like they all bought into it and they all enjoyed it, and I can't imagine being on the other team getting like dunked on or something and then having the entire other bench pointing at me. That would definitely mess with me and rattle me a bit. I'm gonna be honest. If I was
it's funny.
Yeah, no, it's funny, no doubt. That's a good one. Let's see. If I was gonna go one, I would probably say Anthony Edwards' game-sealing performance against the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs. I thought that was incredible to win and sweep them. I thought that the way he ended it with that dunk on like Kevin Durant. I mean, like when I was watching live, that was like crazy to see a young player do that. I feel like that's just what he did. He took Phoenix's soul out of that game at the end. And I think he dropped like 31 in the second half to really put him out. And that performance is one of those all-time Anthony Edwards great moments that I cannot believe I'm watching, and why I think the ceiling is so high for Minnesota, because that kid is different. He's only scraped his potential, and he has something that obviously only guys like maybe Kobe, MJ, guys in that tier have. And that's somebody that if he gets into the moment, if his mind's right, he can do anything on both sides of the ball. And if he wants to win, he's going to win. He's that good of a player that once he really discovers himself, he can just win games on his own. He can will your team to a win, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like so many of the iconic moments that I think of over the year, they're like all involving Ant.
Yeah.
You know, even the KD thing when he like shot a 3 on KD and then was like up in his face. Like I'll never forget that. That was like,
oh yeah, that too. The talking trash, the getting up people's face. And there's never a moment.
Smiling.
There's never a moment for that kid. I think he's such like, we both are rocking Anthony Edwards shirts right now because that's the boy, that's the homie. But yeah, having a player like that toughness and grit. I mean, you want to follow that. And then going back to the draft picks this year, it's a swag. Nasri just talked about it. It's a swagger that they walk around when Anthony Edwards is on your team. There's a belief that you can really do anything, and he makes
Mhm.
everybody feel like you're the best player in the world, or you're the best player on that role, or that you fit, or you have a purpose on our team, and that you're needed, you're wanted. You're
Yeah.
not just a guy at the end of the bench. I think that's so important. So it's going to be a great season. It's going to be, he's obviously getting ready to play in the Olympics coming up. That was huge for him last year, developing to what he's really become this past season. I think that's why he took such a big leap, being on Team USA last year and becoming the best player. This year, he's on Team USA with a lot better players, but that experience he's going to gather being around those guys, being around Jason Tatum, LeBron James, Devin Booker, KD, Embiid, all those guys, it's going to be great for him. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what's going to be in store.
Yeah, I am very excited.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. I appreciate everybody joining. You can follow us on our other socials as well. We're on YouTube at the Daily Wolves, here on Twitter at the Daily Wolves, Instagram at the Daily Wolves, TikTok at the Daily Wolves. Check us out everywhere because we post bonus content different places. Giveaways are gonna always be coming around the corner. Right now, we might have one in the next couple weeks. You never know. We'll see what we can do. But there's always surprises. We always try to put out things, and then on top of that, new. There's always things up our sleeve. Trust me. But it's been great having you on, Maddie. Thanks so much again
Yeah,
for hopping
thank
on
you.
with me. We're gonna end it here, and as always, guys, until next time, go Wolves.
Go Wolves.